Hello and welcome to Lamplighter. Today is May 31. You know what that means, don't you? That means that you and I have just completed 5 full months of reading the Bible together every single day. We are almost halfway to our goal. Congratulations. In today's reading, we continue with the struggles of Solomon as he tries to find the purpose and the meaning of life in his little journal called Ecclesiastes. Today, we finally reach the long-awaited conclusion. As we've gone through this book, we've talked about its negativity. We've talked about its cynicism and skepticism. Solomon at times seems very negative, very discouraging, and yet at other times seems to recognize glimmers of the presence of God. And today we wrap all of those pieces together and see the book's glorious conclusion. As the reading starts today, the section is entitled Life's True Meaning, which gives you a hint that we're finally getting to Solomon's conclusion. In this wonderful section, this wonderful poetry here about time, Solomon is going to talk about the purpose and the balance in life that God has really ordained from the beginning of time. He says there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. And you were probably already familiar with this poetic description of all the things for which God has created time, a time to be born and a time to die, etc. And all of these things show the great balance that has to exist, that just as there is a time for laughter and joy, there's also a time for mourning and sorrow. And all of these things are critical parts of life. You can't have one without the other, and they all balance one another out. And Solomon is grappling with all of that, trying to understand why God would create all these elements of life and weave them so inextricably together. And I love this paragraph that comes at the end of that poem. It's at the top of page 688. He asks the question, what does the worker gain from his toil? I have seen the burden God has laid on men. Now notice this statement. This kind of summarizes this whole section. He, that is God, has made everything beautiful in its time. As he's discussed the time for all these things, he now ties them all together with this one statement. God has made everything beautiful in its time. Yes, even times of sorrow can be beautiful. Even times of mourning can be beautiful. Times of joy, yes. Times of celebration, of course. But all these pieces of life are woven beautifully together by the hand of God, and it is beautiful. Let's read on. He has also set eternity in the hearts of men, yet they cannot fathom what God has done from beginning to end. When we're talking about time here, remember God is eternal. He is timeless, and he has placed in you and in me this sense of eternity. The problem is, because we are finite beings, we really can't comprehend that. God is bigger than time. God is bigger than life. That's why we need to learn to trust in him. I know that there is nothing better for men than to be happy and do good while they live, that everyone may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all his toil. This is the gift of God. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it and nothing taken from it. God does all of this so that men will revere him. That's our purpose. We don't have to explain life. We don't have to understand the purpose of all things that happen in life. Our purpose is to acknowledge God, to recognize him, to revere him as holy. Have you heard that theme? That's the theme God is establishing with his people since the very beginning. He wants us to recognize and revere him as holy. And then he wants us to strive to be holy ourselves. When we come to this next section, it's entitled Advice to Young People, and it reads much like part of the Proverbs we read earlier, almost like a parent is giving advice to a child. Some great pieces of advice here. However many years a man may live, let him enjoy them all. Make the most of your life. But let him remember the days of darkness, for they will be many. You're not going to escape the darkness, he says, so learn how to enjoy it. You enjoy it by learning from it, making life more meaningful because of it, and developing character through it. Be happy, young man, while you are still young, and let your heart give you joy in the days of your youth. Follow the ways of your heart, and whatever your eyes see. But know that for all these things, God will bring you to judgment. In other words, enjoy your life, enjoy your freedom, make the most of your life. But remember, with that freedom comes accountability, and God will hold you accountable for how you use this time that He's granted you to live. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come and the years approach when you will say, I find no pleasure in them. There's coming a time when you're going to grow older and your body is going to begin to deteriorate and decay, and you're not going to be able to do the things you once were able to do when you were young. So enjoy it, but keep focus. Remember your Creator. Remember Him, focus on Him, live according to His way, and then truly find the enjoyment of life. Remember Him before the silver cord is severed, or the golden bowl is broken, before the pitcher is shattered at the spring, or the wheel broken at the well, and the dust returns to the ground it came from, and the spirit returns to the God who gave it. He goes through this description of the physical decay of a human body, but the importance all the while of keeping the spirit renewed, keeping the spirit focused on the God who gave it, so that when we die, that's not all there is. Now watch this. Here comes the whole conclusion of the matter, where life finds its meaning. After all of these ebbs and flows, after all of these ups and downs, these frustrations of life, the meaninglessness of life, all is empty, all is vanity, etc., Solomon draws this conclusion. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Are you ready for it? Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Our whole purpose is to fear or to honor God and to keep His commandments, to do what He says. That's our whole purpose in life. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. Guess what? Solomon finally recognizes the story is about God. We've said that all along, haven't we? The story is about God. Life itself is about God. Your life, my life, is about God. And when we recognize that and learn to honor God with our lives and do what He says, we will find the joy and the fulfillment and the purpose that our lives are here created to experience. Isn't that wonderful? There's a little paragraph at the end of today's reading that shows us the end of Solomon's reign and actually the end of Solomon's death. And I find it fascinating, as big a person as Solomon was, as great a character, when it comes to his death, there's barely even a mention of it here. There are other records of Solomon where one could read about his life, we're told. But in Solomon's death description, we just get this. Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel 40 years. Then he rested with his fathers and was buried in the city of David, his father. That's it. And then we get one line about what happens next. And Rehoboam, his son, succeeded him as king. Solomon lived a glorious life, but unfortunately near the end, he allowed his heart to be taken by his many wives and concubines after other gods into idolatry. It was not a glorious finish for Solomon. But maybe even today, we can learn from his life, we can learn from his experiences, And we can even learn from this journal called Ecclesiastes. And the lesson Solomon would leave with us is this: fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Isn't it great to be a lamplighter? His word is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. I hope you have a blessed day.